Welcome, everyone. This is the Buttercup Podcast where we talk about early childhood topics. Today, I have a very special guest. My guest today is Mr. David Dotson. He's the CEO of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. He has been with the foundation since 1999. Mr. Dotson is responsible for the foundation's fulfillment of its mission for the foundation's financial integrity. Thanks for joining me today, Mr. Dotson.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Well, can you talk a little bit about the Imagination Library? What is it?
Yeah, the Imagination Library was created by Dolly Parton here in our hometown. I'm based and live in Sevier County, Tennessee, which is East Tennessee, and it's Dolly's hometown where she was born and raised and still is obviously very engaged. So it really goes back a ways to the early 90s when she was always looking for ways to positively impact the children of her hometown through education. She's a firm believer in education as sort of the great leveler and also the great source of opportunity for everyone. And just a real quick background, historically, this county has been quite poor. Southern Appalachian County, where Dolly grew up, there wasn't a lot of opportunity. Education was, while available to everyone, wasn't really taken advantage of by everyone for economic reasons and otherwise. It's changed a lot over time as it's become a big tourist destination. So, but during those, when she grew up, it was pretty much like it was, the previous 100 years. So we were still lagging behind in the 80s and 90s in a lot of areas, dropout rates, obviously test scores, those kinds of things. And so tried a number of local initiatives, and which I can, it's quite the journey because we learn from each one, but I'll skip over all the ones that were done. There were 3 or 4 key ones too. The Imagination Library. And by that point in the sort of 96, the real reason that we landed on as far as what would be the single most important thing that she and we could do to help children would be to, number one, impact their ability to read and, more importantly, to love to read. And, and then the second was that really in order to do this effectively, that this all had to happen in the early years before a child ever even went to kindergarten. That this is where the foundation is laid emotionally and cognitively and developmentally. And again, in sort of the Dolly way of thinking, we're thinking of what's the single most important things we can do. So it was that. The second was, well, how do you do that? And again, without going through all the discussions and attempts at kind of coming up with a great idea, she really landed on the fact of, I never had books growing up. We never had books in the home. She obviously became and is an avid reader and lover of books. So this notion of, and from the county, from the teachers, we really realized that so many children were coming to kindergarten never exposed to books, period. And that put them at such a disadvantage. So giving kids books was easy for us, we could do, but the things in our world have to be done the Dolly way. And the Dolly way is you don't give just a book, you give lots of books. And you don't make it something that feels like school or compulsory or whatever. It has to be fun and inspiring and feel like a gift. So all this eventually shook out as is the Imagination Library is the gifting of a book every month from the time a child enrolls, which could be at birth until his or her 5th birthday. The books are brand new, carefully selected, age appropriate, and most importantly, they come each month with the child's name on it. And it's wrapped in a poly bag, so it feels like a gift, and it's the Dolly way. So a child would have, by the time they turn 5, they would have a library of 60 carefully chosen, great quality, and age-appropriate books. That's the long-winded answer.
That's a beautiful answer. Makes me want to cry. Just what a beautiful way that the Imagination Library and Dolly gives back, and being able to give children the gift of reading and the gift of early literacy is just, I can't think of a better gift. I mean, diamonds and well, kids don't want diamonds, but
So much.
toys. There's nothing better than the gift of time from their family and caregivers and people who love them, and reading. I mean, it's just, it doesn't get any better than that. Can you tell the story about how she got this idea? Who in her family inspired her to love reading?
Yeah, it's a great question. I imagine one thing about Dolly is whether you have your fellow faculty members or administration or a freshman at your university, they all know Dolly. It's remarkable in that respect. But for those that don't, just quickly, she grew up, very poor, one of 12 children. She's sort of in the middle. And at the time when she was coming of age in high school and things like the goal most for everybody around here was to finish high school. College was not really in the ballpark, Sorry about that. So to continue, and this particularly with her father and mother's generation, there were just lots of people who didn't know how to read, and her father was one of them. And she's always felt like growing up and even later in life that he was the smartest man she ever knew. I mean, he raised a huge family and they, never did without. And he had, great common sense or horse sense, as we would say, and just, a man who she admired and loved, but also realized that this inability to read and write really limited him, that he could have done so much more. And probably he had to shelve a lot of his dreams because he couldn't do that. So that was really the inspiration at the time, is that she was like, when I get in a position where I can, and it was never with her, if I get in a position, it's when I get in the position, then I'm going to do something for him and in his honor that tries what it can do to make sure that no one is limited by not necessarily being illiterate, but being handicapped by maybe not having the reading and writing skills that you really need in today's world. And so that's where it came from. And he lived long enough to see the beginning of it, which was really terrific. He said to her toward the end of his life, out of all the things that she had already accomplished, he was most proud of the Imagination Library. And almost every time now when you see her talk about it, she gets very emotional, because that was some of the last conversations she had with her dad, is about how important the program was to him and obviously to her.
That's beautiful. How can families access the Imagination Library?
Well, we have a very unique model. One of the things that, kind of to pick up quickly the story, is that, as mentioned at the top of the show, the first, our program was really just local, Sevier County, Tennessee. And then in '99, when one of my first tasks was, number one, determine if we could share this program and expand it, and if so, how could we do that, and how could it be sustained? So I'll fast forward real quickly just to tell you that since '99, we've grown from about 2,000 children a month that a book has been gifted to 1.7 million children a month that a book gets gifted to in 5 countries. And that's 150 million books since '99. Needless to say, we've gone from when I came, we had a budget of about $250,000 and had a checkbook, and now it's a 35 million plus operation. And so it's really, really grown and expanded. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean that it's available everywhere. Our model is such that if you are we replicate by communities. So if a community wants to have the program, then they partner with us on it. And the partnership on their end requires a local nonprofit organization that can manage the database and co-fund the program. All of the overhead, so the database and the staff on our end and websites and registration portals and all those kinds of things are handled by us at no cost. Dolly pays for that, but they pay for the cost of their children's books and the mailing. Now we negotiate that cost. We select the books for it. The books average, brand new books, about $1.35 a piece. So it's just a great price that can't be beat. And then, of course, we deal with the postal system to make sure it's the minimum amount of postal charges. So in order to participate, you have to live in a community where this partnership exists. The good news is there's about 1,700 of them, and you can go to a website, our website, imaginationlibrary.com, click choose your country, which is in the US in this case, and you'll see a little affiliate locator on the right-hand menu screen. If you click on that, it's a map of the country, and you click on any state, and it brings up every community in that state, who it is, what the organization is, how many children they have enrolled, who the contact is, how to register, all that stuff is there. Then the final good news, and I think this portends great for the future for more coverage, is that in the early 2000s, we were able to successfully broker a partnership with the state government of Tennessee, so that it's kind of a three-way partnership. The state puts money into the program, the local community puts money into their effort, and we manage our overhead. And what that produced is a universal program in the state of Tennessee. So no matter where you live in Tennessee, your child's under 5 is eligible, and all you have to do is go online and enroll the child. We've since been able to replicate that model for North Carolina, Ohio, Delaware, Colorado, soon to be Oklahoma, soon to be Arkansas, and soon to be, there's one more, Maine. So as these all come into focus, especially as the last few I mentioned, because they're just about there, they've passed legislation, they've either are waiting to fund it after the pandemic reality gets, gets situated, and then we can move forward. But in Ohio, North Carolina, Delaware, and Tennessee, it's fully operational. So it's universal coverage in those states. So clearly what we hope in the future is that all 50 states can do this. So and that's our dream, that any child in the country, any place they live, can enroll. So we're not there yet, but at 1.6, 1.7 million kids already, we're well on our way.
That's amazing. And you've been there a long time, since 1999. And congratulations and good job, Mr. Dotson, because that's really hard work to do that with a nonprofit and to scale it up so big like you did. Thank you. I know families and children all over the world benefit from your leadership and from the generosity of Dolly Parton and everyone on your team.
Yeah, it's gratifying. We're still, a small group. I mean, when I first came, there was me and another person. And that's kind of how we started this. So the nice thing about being blessed enough to still be alive and kicking is that there's not a job that I haven't done in this endeavor. Now, fortunately, we have enough people. We have 15 total worldwide, and including our operations. But we've got a nice team in place that can parlay what we've done so far to even greater success in the future. But thank you for the kind words, and it's a very very obviously a very gratifying experience all the way around, and one I never saw coming. So it's been an interesting ride for sure.
That's awesome. Well, as a teacher, selecting books has always been a fun part of my job. I love the curriculum development and locating books. And I have an 8-year-old, and she loves to read. And that's also fun for me to shop for holiday gifts and birthday gifts, because I know what she likes to read. And then I'm always looking for new things, new book titles. How do you guys select your books?
Yeah, first of all, probably one of the more important things is when in 99 or so, we were doing it locally. We were working with a publisher that was, and this is a very small scale, but who wasn't very dependable, I guess, and their name shall be withheld to protect the innocent. But they just were. I knew if we were to grow, that you can't have unreliability and book availability. You really had to, what you chose is what you need to have, because that's what you're telling people you're going to deliver. So much like the old Nashville songwriters of old, where you'd take your songs and knock on doors down Music Row and say, "Hey, I've got a song for you." I did that in New York with all the major publishers to tell them that we've got this program that Dolly does that she thinks it has tremendous potential for growth because there's an appetite of other communities for this. So could you partner with us in an exclusive way? But we need pricing that our current volume, I know, doesn't justify, but we can't do it if it's, market rates for books. It's unaffordable. We have to have a better way. And again, who really understood it and shared our vision was Penguin, which has now become Penguin Random House. So for 22 years now, Penguin Random House has been the exclusive provider of titles for us. So that's the source. The process is that, again, very early on, it was clear to me that I don't have the expertise to choose the books. I know what I like, as a parent and as an adult, but I don't know, I couldn't, and Dolly sure as heck didn't want to do it either, because she said, what if I choose something that they don't like? So clearly a committee was the way to go, and a committee composed of people who all represent and bring to the table a different perspective. So academicians in information sciences, library work, child development, parents as teachers, practitioner, who are working with parents in rural communities, an author and an editor, a kindergarten teacher, just this nice collection of people who all brought to the table. And then that was done in 2000, 2001. And really, almost every one of them are still involved today. It's a passion for them. They do it totally volunteer. And so what happens is, again, to kind of truncate it a little bit, but our director of operations goes with Penguin in sort of like March of each year and looks at this whole universe of availability, which right now we pretty much can, whatever they have is available. It wasn't always back like that in the beginning, but when you're doing, buying 17 million books, they'll let you choose what you want, right? And so they take this universe of books that we like to consider. Obviously, we don't change out the entire library every single year. We usually will replace about 12 to 20 titles and then do that every year. So in about a 5-year period, the library does mostly roll over completely, but not always, because we have a number of books that have been in the library since the beginning and are universally cherished. Every child's first book is The Little Engine That Could, and that's been that way since day one, and I'm pretty sure it'll be that way forever, because Dolly's favorite children's book. And then our last book, the book that they received before they when they end, is Look Out Kindergarten, Here I Come by Nancy Carlson. And again, that's such a wonderful send-off book to school. There's a letter from Dolly in the first and last book for every child. And then some of the other classics, A Snowy Day has been in there for forever, and things like that. And then some books will go away for a while and come back, because with so much new inventory that's available, it's great. We can really keep it fresh and keep the quality and the level high. So they meet for 4 days after the initial selection of, say, 125 or so titles. This committee goes and reads aloud every book to each other. They then decide which ones they like, which ones they don't like, or not necessarily don't like, but maybe some skew too old, well, I should take that back. There are books they don't like. And so they put those aside. And then the last day is really slotting them by the age appropriateness. And then, so that's both replacing, obviously, books that they want to replace. And it's also maybe from feedback that we think maybe they've placed a book in an age group that maybe is a little too old or maybe a little too young. So maybe slide that book down to a younger age group, take a new book that seems, better suited for that month and that age. And, that kind of thoughtful manipulation, really, of composing the library. So once all of that is done, then there's about several months of making sure that often we have to take a book that in its trade version, that's sold, it's too big and too heavy for mailing. And so they like the book, but we don't compromise the artwork, but we'll maybe change the format a bit so it's lighter and smaller. And to do that, you obviously have to have permission. And with every author and illustrator, there's a different contract. And so some Penguin has the ability just to do that. Others, you have to go back and get. So it's a couple months of getting permissions, for those kinds of things. Or we may take a book that they really like and think it lends itself terrific to a bilingual version, which is not available in trade. And so we have to go back and get their permission, because you do change the format a little bit because you got to add the Spanish text in there. So all that takes a few months to do. And then about November, as a matter of fact, just last week, the final list, final pricing, all of that was finalized for next year. So all this happens a year in advance. So right now in October the 22nd, we've just finished this whole process that I described, and the 2021 Imagination Library is set and ready to go.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's really neat to hear what the process is for book selection, and so much goes into it. And it sounds like it's always changing. It's not always the same books, same age all the time. It's dynamic. And so the little engine that could, I didn't know that. That's so awesome. Is that where your logo came from? The choo-choo train in the?
Yeah, we it's a stylized version of it, because the little engine was, like I mentioned, that was Dolly's choice, even before we went to Penguin, even when we were dealing with the other publisher. The little engine was the first book. So we dealt with Penguin already a little bit on that. But the message, the timelessness of it, it's just the perfect book for everything that we stand for, in terms of what the Imagination Library is, the dreams it's trying to instill and inspire, the confidence that you can do and be whomever you want to be, the never give up aspect of it. It's just a beautiful story, and truly the definition of a classic, because I know 100 years from now, regardless how technologically different today's world is, there'll still be kids pulling out a book, a version of the little engine that could. And we hope that we're the ones that gave it to them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. The other piece that I think is so powerful is you mentioned that the child's name appears on the book, and they know that book belongs to them. Have you gotten any feedback from children or families about the gift program in general, or having the name in the book of the child?
Oh yeah. There's just anecdotally, it's every day, honestly, that email or letter and whatnot. But out of everything that, and having been here so long, I've read a lot of parent letters and parent emails. And the two most important things that I think people value the most about it, I mean, there's lots of things, but the two that always jumps out is the name on the book and the arrival of the book with the name on it in the mail, because it creates and that was really the design, that's why we thought of it is, hey, every kid in the world likes to get mail. In today's world, there's less mail, or the mail that comes is either junk mail or bills, so it's not like it used to be so much when, I grew up, when you could get comic books in the mail or the Weekly Reader or, things like that. So that it created, again, our Dolly's notion behind it was, if we can make this as a 2, 3, 4-year-old the book associated with a joyful experience every single month for years, then that's really going to, take root. And so the joy of it is it's got my name on it. It's like a gift. It's coming in the mail. It's, nice and new, and, all the things that children love. That's what we were after, is that emotional connection, because, you have a child, so and children, if they love something, they're going to do it and want more of it. If they don't love it, then, it's always a bit of a struggle. So that was always been our connection, and that's affirmed all the time by parents. In addition, every other year, we do a big survey of all of our parents in all countries. It's usually like a 5-question survey. Try to keep it really short. It's online. And we receive about 75,000 responses to these surveys each time from parents. And there are questions like that. What do you like? I mean, they're very specific questions, but, we do ask what books are your favorite. So we have a real handle on that, which books that you don't like and are your least favorite. And then, questions like, we can talk about this in a second if you'd like, but one of the ones we always are on there is questions about digital content, because we don't do digital content, but we're trying to take their pulse about that. But all of that feedback together just constantly and consistently underscores the value of what we intended to happen, which is this emotional response and emotional connection to the books and to the library.
That's great. And you mentioned the website, and it is so easy to navigate. And there's a place that you can put in your zip code to find out if your county has, or your neighborhood has the program. And it's beautiful. And there's activities on there also. Mm-hmm. So if you're not participating in the program, or you are, you can learn as a parent more activities to extend the book or the stories. Do you want to talk a little bit about the early literacy activities?
Sure. We developed those. First, we're in an interesting situation, and we get asked to do and to be a lot of things. And this may be something that's going to be of value to students. And I'm saying this isn't the only way to do it, because I don't think there is such a thing as the only way. But the fact of the matter is that early on, I felt, and certainly Dolly felt, and the board felt, that for us to be successful and to bring this to scale, we've got to be like a dog on a bone about one thing. We can't be drifting off and to one of the, and I've been around in nonprofits my whole life, both, as a practitioner and as a consultant. And one of the number one dangers, regardless of what a nonprofit is pursuing, are things like mission drift, or, really diluting what you're doing. You start either chasing money, or you're not as successful. But you end up with a collection of initiatives, none of which are really your full and best effort. So we decided our job, our mission, our expertise is getting a great book into the hands of the children at the lowest possible cost to the affiliate organization, and have a system that's always reliable, because consistency and dependability for children is key. And we didn't want our books to not be that. They had to be that as well. So we would often ask about, well, you really should get into parent education too, or the books. And we felt like, we know that's true, but we think that's the job of other people. Now, having said that, we realized that there are ways we can, dip our toe into that a little bit, because it is important. First way is that when a child is from about 2 years old onwards, because again, all these books now are printed just for us and the way we want to do it. So I mentioned format changes. From about the 2-year-old age and up, each book comes with French flaps. And French flaps on a book are just front and back cover extenders. They fold in when the book is closed, and they fold out, so it gives you more real estate to write in. So the panel on one side is the story of the Imagination Library, But the panel on the right are title-specific reading tips and activities for every book. So that gives us the ability. Those are written by the editorial staff at Penguin in combination with our book selection committee, but they're not general. They are specific to that title. So they reference the characters, they reference the story, giving parents a very quick and easy way if they don't feel that comes natural to them. It gives them a way, a resource to use on that's right there in the book, because that's what we decided was whatever we do has got to be inside the book. And that has been incredibly helpful and very, very popular. The other thing, obviously, is the website. And we felt like we could do some better and more things there in today's world where there's some additional resources that we can put on the website. We try to be careful because, lots of people have content and they see who we are. So, everybody wants their content on our website. And so, it creates a little bit of a hardship because we hate to judge stuff, because there's just so much good things. So we try to put content on there that's generated by the partners that we have, so some of it's the affiliate organizations, some of it are our key, for instance, parents as teachers, they're on the book committee, they sponsor a program in almost 50 Native American communities. So they're good at contents. Their content's great. So those are the activities that we like to put on there so people could have access. And to your point, you don't have to be in a community receiving books to access that. We don't have any sort of membership only thing. Anybody can go there at any time. And then we also have a little bit of music. You can download Dolly's song, I Believe in You, which is inspired by The Little Engine That Could, which is a wonderful song. Fair warning, though, you hear the song, then you can't get it out of your head and you drive yourself crazy. But it's it's a wonderful addition because obviously music is a part of our DNA as well.
Yes. Well, a lot of my college students will go into a career in nonprofits. Do you have any advice for starting and pursuing a career working for a nonprofit?
Yeah, one of the things I've learned from Dolly is that I like, which she always says, well, I don't really give advice, but I'll give you information because what worked for me may not work for you, But I think when you talk a little bit about the nonprofit world, especially now compared to when I started out in the 70s, so it's a long time ago. One of the big changes, and this is very much of an encouragement to everybody. Clearly, if you're looking at a nonprofit type of career and issues, then, these are something that you feel passionate about. So I'm assuming that anybody who's going to have a career already has a passion for the cause or the issue that you want to be involved in. But it used to be, and I imagine in your case, probably this is the same back then for teaching. It used to be kind of you want to do it then because I can still hear my father's voice, which is, well, you go and do that, you're going to be poor the rest of your life. That nonprofit pay, nonprofit world is, subsistence living. You can never do good and have a decent life. And there's limits to it. It's not the same as the for-profit world. But the fact of the matter is you can have a successful career and make a nice living for yourself and your family. You're not going to be the richest person on the block, but you're going to be definitely able to pursue your passion and to have a decent standard of living. And that's really true today, and that's wonderful. So it's not like you have to sacrifice something to pursue a passion. You can have it all in the nonprofit world. So never let that fear, I'd say, deter anyone that you can do it. And of course, so many people move in if they're good and they're successful and move into management, you can do extremely well. So and at the same time, like I say, be able to pursue your passion. So that hopefully removes sort of a fear or a concern. But I think the second thing I would always tell folks is that one thing too about nonprofit is that because the nature of them, whether they're big or small, now if they're real huge nonprofits, global nonprofits, there's probably a lot more specialization. But in the most of them, you have to be a general practitioner. You've got to know a good bit about a lot of things. So the versatility of it is really important. So as you go to school, as you get into the workforce, really look at all the areas, looking at both what you need to know in terms of, planning and budgeting and administration and legal stuff, and even investments for, your nonprofit, obviously human resources and how to deal with staff people and lead folks. I mean, all of these areas are probably areas that you're going to have to be competent in at one time or another, at one place or another. So try to avoid suddenly get in a situation that you think, oh God, I don't know anything about that, which happened to me multiple times, and trying to figure it out. So I think that sort of really broad, comprehensive skill and competency-based foundation will really serve you well, because also that versatility will allow you to be great flexibility in pursuing jobs and in pursuing careers and in pursuing your passion.
That's great. Thank you. Wonderful information.
Yeah.
Information is wonderful.
Yeah, that's right.
What has been the highlight of your career so far?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. There've been so many. I would say, generally speaking, it's the highlight of just seeing and overseeing this being brought to such a scale, that we're talking about millions of children that I've had, a hand in. I'm not certainly the only person who's been involved, but I've certainly been, a significant part of it. And that's really a lifetime achievement award, I guess, is that it's just to see that I never dreamed I would be in that kind of a position to be able to positively deliver something to so many people. So that's really the highlight from a general sense. I think the specifically two things. One is just, how many people in the world can have Dolly Parton as their boss? And the highlight, again, it's a lifetime kind of thing, is to be around somebody who truly is special and unique. I mean, I know we're all humans and we preach, we all do. We all have our own talents, but there are special people who have and do walk this earth, and she has so much great things to absorb, great energy to absorb, great knowledge to absorb, to see how someone can be spiritually grounded, and, as she said, be a little too good to be bad and a little bit too bad to be good, so who can have fun and enjoy life, but really be centered in what you're doing and why, and in the sort of spiritual source of that. I've just learned so much, over the last 20, 25 years, very inspirational. And to be in that kind of position is, again, something that I never dreamed of. It's probably one last thing. It's not necessarily it's the funniest highlight of this career, which was we were in, there's one that was really funny, but probably isn't appropriate. But one that is that was great was that we were at Dollywood, and I've been fortunate enough to travel all around the world in this job. And at Dollywood, when Dolly's on park, there's just thousands of people watching whatever you're doing, right? And so she was, I honestly can't remember what she was doing out there, but we had to take her from that position into the side door of a theater, and the theater, it was like a loading ramp, but instead of going up, it went down like you're going into a subterranean loading area. So the farther you go down, the higher all these people were, mashed up on there. So as we're walking down, and you have to understand when she's in this situation, you're talking packed people screaming her name, sign this, do all those kind of things. And so she's waving and waving. And then I looked up and I saw a young woman with an artificial leg, and she was holding the artificial leg. So we got into the theater and she said, "Is that girl holding up a leg?" And I said, "Yeah." And then Brian, who's her security, said, "Yeah, she said she wanted you to sign it." So she goes, "Go get the leg." So he goes out there and she gives him her leg, to sign. He brings it back in, and we were some pretty things. It was funny in there because she's like, "I've been here a long time and I've never signed a detached leg." So she said, so you got her name, put her name, you love Dolly, and just like the one. And so Brian, we opened the door, bring out the leg, and the roar of the crowd was, "She signed the leg! She signed the leg!" And we were laughing so hard. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just have never, this is beyond, beyond anything you can imagine." And the woman put back on her leg, and she was so thrilled. It was just so sweet to see because, I don't think there's too many people in the world that would have done that. And clearly it meant so much. And it was a lot of fun too for her and for us.
Yeah. Oh, I love that Dolly story. She has so many Dollyisms, and you that one you just said is so neat.
Yeah.
She's just so she's my favorite musician, and I grew up listening to her music. And when she was in Steel Magnolias, I just thought that was my life because I grew up, my mom's a hairdresser and we have a beauty shop in our house. And growing up, we always had women coming and going and getting perms and getting their hair done. And one of the Dollyisms that's one of my favorites is someone asked her once, how long does it take to get her hair to look so good? And she said, "Honey, I don't know because I'm never there." And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so funny. My mom had a dispensary filled with wigs. And when she wasn't doing people in the chair, she would be, doing back home and doing wigs. And so just so much about Dolly, I just love. And I love this Imagination Library and what you've been doing as the CEO, Mr. Dotson. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just such a gift to families and children and creating readers all over the world. It's just beautiful. Well, how can Buttercup podcast listeners follow you?
Yeah, two ways. Certainly on our Imagination Library website, which is constantly updated. Like you mentioned, it's got activities, it's got news that's updated all the time because there's always new things. Just for a quick plug, if you don't mind to watch out for it, is that on December the 9th of this year, we're going to finally be able to release the documentary that was done on the Imagination Library called The Library That Dolly Built. And it's going to be a Facebook exclusive that'll air at 7:00 p.m. Eastern via Facebook. You can see it obviously on, which I'll get to in a second, the Imagination Library Facebook page. But that it's going to be a very special event too, because we were going to do it as a theatrical event in April with a big premiere in New York and in about 300 theaters, but obviously the pandemic happened, so we had to put it on hold, and then that morphed into the Good Night with Dolly, which was her reading the bedtime stories 10 weeks a row in the summer during the early part of the pandemic, and then we finally have found the time and the place that's best to release the documentary. What's going to be cool about it, besides the documentary, is that when it's finished, it runs about an hour, Dolly's going to appear live on Facebook for a Q&A and then do a live song, which is the anthem of the Imagination Library, a song called Try, which is a really beautiful song. So it's going to be a great event, and both the website and then the other way to follow us is through the Imagination Library Facebook page. Just when you Google that, put Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, there's a lot of local organizations that, their Facebook pages are Imagination Library. So just make sure you've got the official one, which it says that it's the official one. Not that the other ones aren't official, but they're the local programs, you know. So this is the universal Facebook page. And honestly, that's there's something new on there every day, and we send out things about the books that are going out that month on the Facebook page. We put news. There'll be a lot of promotion for the documentary. Dolly's already recorded maybe 10 spots to talk about the documentary and when and how to watch and what she's going to be doing. The documentary is narrated by Danica McKellar, who, if I don't know if you watched The Wonder Years,
Yeah.
She played Winnie and has since gone on to get got a degree in mathematics from Stanford, and is a really big advocate for inspiring and teaching the love of math with children, and particularly with young girls. And we have one of her books in the Imagination Library. So she's been a real fan of the program, has narrated it for free, and is just a lovely person who will also, you know, have a little appearance at the front end of the film. So that's going to be it's sort of the culmination of all of this, really, because our story's never been told in this way and in this comprehensive way. So yeah, I think it's going to be a special night, and I'm certainly hope as many of your folks in your world, and if in your universe you'd like to cross post, you know, you can do that. You can actually through cross posting with the university or your department. I'm not sure how you're set up. The documentary can be shown on your Facebook page. So there's ways that we can do that. So there's just a lot of potential there. So a lot of people can see it, and hopefully it'll inspire more people to say, I want that in my community, or I want to bring this to my state. And that's our hope, is that it's a launching pad for more growth and more children.
Definitely. December 9th.
December
Okay,
9th.
I'm going to put that on my calendar. And students, if you want to do a virtual viewing party with me, we'll watch it together. It'll be so neat to be able to see the documentary and hear the whole story.
Yeah,
after, when it's done viewing, when it's done, will there be a place to watch it on demand afterwards?
There will. It'll continue to live on via Facebook, and then after a short while on YouTube. We've given Facebook an exclusive for a little bit because they can do things to help promote it in their end if we gave it to them. But yeah, it'll be very accessible going forward. We're also we're not geofencing it, so anybody in the world can watch it that time or later, but then we're having special premieres the next day at 7 p.m. their local time in the UK, and then on the 11th in Australia. And in those versions of it, there's going to be a pre-recorded customization that leads into the film about the Imagination Library in their country. So we can, you know, make a special appeal for that, because the other countries, they have different books that goes through the same selection process and same program, same everything, except the books are different and, you know, chosen by them. So it'll give us a way to kind of make it a special event for Europe and Australia as well.
This is so exciting. December 9th. Get our popcorn ready, buttered popcorn or kettle corn or whatever your favorite snack is. And it's right around the holidays. So maybe hot chocolate with some peppermint candy canes, or great time for the holidays.
It is. It'll be perfect. And there'll be lots of, this is in the middle. Well, actually it's toward the end of a lot of, you're going to see a lot of Dolly going forward for the rest of the year, because she's just released her Christmas album called A Holly Dolly Christmas, which is much needed at this time. And so there's a lot of promotion about that. And then I think it's like November 22nd, 23rd on Netflix will debut a movie called Christmas on the Square that was actually recorded last year or filmed last year. And it's a Dolly film. She has a cameo in it, but she's written all the music. It's a Christmas musical. And Debbie Allen is directing the choreography, and Christine Baranski is the star. And there's a bunch of other really cool people in it, and all the music is terrific. And again, with the record, the movie, the documentary, and then a special thing right before December for Christmas that's going to be on Pandora. That there's just going to be a lot of Dolly touch points there. So get ready for it and enjoy every one of them.
Yay! Neat. I'm so excited. And she also has at Williams and Sonoma kitchen things. So if you want to bake holiday cookies, she is one busy lady.
Oh yeah, and there's more coming. A couple other books. A book called Song Teller that is a collection of all of her songs and the stories behind them. I don't know. You can access it, but yes. Let's see. Was it yesterday? No. What's today? Thursday. I think Tuesday. She was on Stephen Colbert's show, and it was a really neat show because I've been fortunate to be with her the last time she was on the show there in person, and it was about the book mainly, but it has nothing to do really with the Imagination Library. But it was one of the better interviews that talked a lot about her songs and what she feels about them, and she breaks into a spontaneous version of an old ballad her mom used to sing that made him start to cry. So it was it's neat. So there's going to be a lot of interviews and a lot of media exposure. So yeah, it'll be a good time. Then I think everybody can rest for a little while after that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. David Dotson. It is such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for what you're doing and your own leadership there at the university and helping students to, pursue their passion. There's no more important role in the world than that. And I'm sure you, from what I can see, you're obviously a great person, and I'm sure a great teacher and a great inspirer of kids. So thank you for, they would hate to be called kids, of young adults. And thank you for doing that. That's incredibly important work that you're doing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.